Welcome to Performance Mesh, our relatively new podcast. We're here with episode 9. My name is John O'Neill. I'm here with my co-host, Eric Manis. Eric, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm great, Johnny. Name a famous number 9 for me.
Well, it's funny you say that because I'm horrified by the lack of baseball history knowledge from a lot of kids that I talked to today. So 61 years ago, in 1961, Roger Maris hit 61 home runs, right? Very easy to remember, especially given those numbers. And also, like, maybe it's because we're biased and we grew up watching McGuire and Sosa and Bonds, and those guys were always like passing or chasing Maris, right?
Yep.
I had like 8 kids. It took me until the 8th or 9th kid today until I could get somebody that could answer the question, who hit 61 home runs in 1961?
Nobody knew?
Yeah, I had...
what were some common guesses?
Hank Aaron, Willie Mays. I had a couple Babe Ruths, just bad guesses.
Did they play baseball?
This is a baseball gym too. It's a gym that
Is there not? How many other sports are represented there? Probably like 2.
We have a few more than that, but like all the kids I was asking were baseball.
They're baseball players.
Yeah, they were baseball players between the ages of like 14 and 17.
That's
no idea.
You might have to start. Robert Bina has a good Instagram story theme where he asks kids in the gym questions, like very easy questions, and a lot of the times they don't know. I think that you should start a Instagram story of very basic baseball questions.
I think we should.
I would find that really funny.
We might break that out tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like once a week, just like, I mean, that's pretty easy, right? Roger Maris.
Yeah.
The guy was the home run king for over 30 years.
Yeah, and some would argue is still the quote legitimate home run king.
Now, you want to get into that real quick?
I don't know, man.
If Aaron Judge hits 62 home runs, is he the home run champ?
Look, are we going to look at him, more favorably? Yes, but it'll never be as fun as it was in the late 90s, early 2000s every year. Like, I know exactly where I was when I found out Mark McGuire hit his 62nd home run.
Wow. What's the record? 70?
73. Bonds hit 73. I remember exactly where I was when Bonds hit 70 and 71. Like, those are like impactful life moments as a kid. Like, nobody's gonna remember Judge's 62nd home run.
Oh man, I think he is though. I got to be honest with you. I think he's the legitimate king. I guess there could be an illegitimate king, but I don't know.
I get it.
Also, favorite sports. One of the top 10 sports movies for the podcast, right? 61.
61 is. If you have
we talked about this before? It's an amazing. I mean, we've talked about it before, probably.
I don't think we've talked about it on the pod. 61. This might be a hot take, but I think it is the best movie I've ever seen that wasn't a made-for-theaters movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like that was.
It was an HBO release.
It was made for HBO. Made for HBO well before streaming services, right? It came out in I think 2001 or 2002, right around there. And it is done so well. The guy who plays Roger Maris looks exactly like Roger Maris.
How is that possible?
Every time I watch Saving Private Ryan, I think, wow, Roger Maris is in this too.
He probably could have been. Right?
No, Barry Pepper is also great in that. I don't know anything else about Barry Pepper other than that. He's great in Saving Private Ryan, and he's great in 61.
I feel like I know another movie he was in, but I can't. It's not coming off the top of my head. And the other guy too, Jude something. It was Mickey Mantle. He looks a lot like Mickey Mantle.
I think it's Thomas Jane is his name.
Thomas Jane, yeah.
Thomas Jane. He looks a lot like Mantle. They just do such a good job with that whole movie. It's incredible.
That's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
The imagery of the old stadium. And that could have been, if that were made today, that would be made as like a 10-part, 1-hour series, just like they did with the Showtime Lakers on HBO. Did you watch any of that one?
Yeah, I couldn't get into it.
They tried to be too cute with it. Like, they tried to make it too funny, too comedic, instead of just giving us, good old quality sports.
Give us the sports. That's what we always say, right?
Yeah, I thought the guy who played Kareem in it was awesome. I watched
Mhm.
I watched the whole thing. I'm not gonna sit here and say I didn't watch it. But Jack Kent Cook, played by John C. Riley, just came off as like too much of a joke the whole time.
Yeah, it's a little bit like a cartoon character.
Yeah,
Nobody's like that.
no, they exaggerated everyone. They made everybody an extreme all the way through.
That's what sells, John. Not
Yeah,
here though. Not here.
I
We like the
guess
truth.
I guess so. Yeah. And so, outside of being disappointed by our athletes or my athletes or CSP's athletes, lack of baseball history knowledge, really disappointed. Let's not understate that. Some other recent events. I know we both went away recently, but I also want to kind of tie this back to what we can do better as S&C coaches. Given like the break times, time off, how we educate our clients in regards to that. So why don't you start? Tell me where you went and how was it, but two,
Oh,
how you typically approach conversations with clients when they're going on vacation.
okay. So I went to lovely Huntsville, Alabama. I went on it was a very quick trip. I left on Thursday and I came back on Saturday. So, but I have a pregnant wife and a 2-year-old. So your boy can't be going out on these long trips anymore, right? So he's got to make the best of his time. So I went to the it was kind of like a mentorship type of thing with my mentor and sensei Andy McCoy, and big themes of the weekend were just Andy McCoy is an absolute stud, and if you don't know him, you got it. This guy is. He presented on Friday, and this guy is unbelievable, man. He spoke for about 8 hours. And I just couldn't believe the knowledge this guy was pulling up. Like he was so prepared and just dialed in and so helpful. And the guy's jacked. He's got tattoos. He's a handsome guy. He runs a really successful business. Like I'm incredibly lucky that to be able to like call him like a friend and mentor. And it was just really, really great. There was other gym owners who we kind of just like reviewed our core values kind of, and it just Andy kind of brought this story along of like how you should be running your business, and it was awesome. It was great to hang out with a couple of guys from the tribe that I'd actually never met before. I've been in it for probably like 3 or 4 years, actually, yeah, probably 3 or 4 years. I've only spoken to these guys on Zoom, and it was really cool to just hang out in person and shoot the shit with the boys. They were a lot of fun. We actually went to a high school football game in Madison, Alabama. The towns has two high schools that were playing each other, and there was a helicopter up, and I'm like, oh, what's that? They announced that a guy was going to jump out of a helicopter and parachute down and deliver the game ball for a high school football game. 12,000 people there. It was insane. Like Alabama, the South truly treats their high school football very differently. It was just a really cool and fun experience. I came back really refreshed and motivated to like really attack a lot of things in September and in the new season.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And I didn't realize there's that much Con Ed involved in the vacation. So some would argue that's not even a vacation, right?
No, yeah, but this when you have a child, you kind of it was like I treated myself. I everything at the airport. I kind of was like, I'm just gonna buy these $7 protein shakes because I deserve it. And I had a couple cocktails. Like this is a good time.
If I told you had to buy a classic candy from either a convenience store or an airport, like one of those little like Hudson News style stands, Hudson News, the one in the New York area, I don't know what it is around the country, but one of those stands, you have to buy a classic candy. What are you buying?
Does Take 5 count? Do you know what Take 5 bar is?
Take 5 counts.
That's by far the number one candy bar for me.
Wow. Okay.
It's got everything. It's got everything you need.
I don't know if I've ever had a Take 5 bar. At no point in my life have I ever said I want it. This is what I want.
it's just a lot of it. You're not a big flavor guy. You're not a flavor combo guy. You're just a basic Hershey's, I feel like.
I go with the M&Ms. M&Ms are my favorite.
The M&Ms are really good. Don't let M&Ms around me because I'll just take them by the handful over and over and over until like the M&Ms tap out.
Yeah, like I got a bag of M&Ms in the airport on the way back from Yellowstone. We went to my fiance and I, Amy, went to Yellowstone about a week and a half ago now, 2 weeks ago. We went there. We were there for a week. 3 nights in Jackson Hole, 3 nights in West Yellowstone, Montana. Jackson Hole, highly recommended. It's awesome year round.
Yeah, that's beautiful, huh?
Yeah, and then just the whole time spending it around in that Yellowstone and greater Yellowstone area it's fantastic because, nobody, I know there are probably some truck drivers out there that would argue, but I think nobody in the field, in the S&C field, likes a good road trip more than me.
Oh my God. You love to drive. I mean, you love it.
I love hitting the open road. Yellowstone's a lot of driving. Like things are not near each other out there. So Yellowstone the park is bigger. It's bigger than Rhode Island and Delaware combined. I think it's almost as big as states like Connecticut, Massachusetts. Yeah.
Oh my God.
If you want to see that park, you're driving on like 25 to 45 mile an hour roads around the park. And you got to watch out for wildlife. It's a 2-lane road. It curves a lot.
Did you see anything? Did you see any animals?
Saw a lot of cool things. Was pretty close to a moose.
Whoa, that's a bucket list item for me.
Yeah,
that's a massive animal, man.
We were probably about 25 yards away from the moose or so, 25 yards. Wow. Got some good pictures. That moose, its hip was at my head.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Saw a lot of bison. Saw a couple bears.
Whoa.
Actually, hold on. I saw one bear in the wild and a few that were in actually a bunch that were in like a gated area or a closed off area. One bear in the wild from about 40 to 50 yards away.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so it was some good stuff. It was fun. But the main reason I want to bring up all this stuff, let's tie it back into the field is, all right, so you have a client going on vacation. All right. How do you go about educating them on if they want to work out, what they want to do, et cetera? What is your current approach to that? How has that shifted over the years?
So when I first started, I was like, I would probably be like, you got to make sure you do something, make sure you get some sprints in or make sure maybe we'll send you a workout, check out the hotel pool, see what the hotel has and let me know, we'll make a workout for you. And now I feel like these kids are just so overscheduled and just beaten to a pulp that like they need a week of not doing shit. Like they just need to like let their whole body recharge and just like come back to like level and then come back a little bit refreshed. Like sometimes I remember like people would be nervous, be like, oh, I'm going away for a week. I'd be like, good, like have fun, get away from everything and just have a little fun and be a child for 7 to 10 days.
Yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards being in line with you. I'll give 2 quick examples of what makes me think this, right? So one, when I first got into the field, like it's a big deal. Like, oh, you got to make sure you're deloading and deload every 4 weeks or every 6 weeks or whatever it is. And I was of that mindset, right? Like, oh, you got to take your deload weeks. In all reality, like sometimes frequency is the best thing to deload. And so, hey, only go to the gym twice next week or take a week off. Like at this point, I get probably 44 to 48 good training weeks a year with like 4 more that are like, all right, I just get a couple training sessions in and I try to take like maybe 2 completely off, right? It doesn't mean I don't leave my couch. It just means like I'm not lifting weights. And when I was at Drive in New York doing a lot of personal training with a lot of people who traveled a lot, I realized like, all right, there's no point in me like planning these deloads when they're just gonna be away next week anyway. Let's just train hard up until when they go away and tell them hey, your vacation is your deload, and
Mhm.
here's what I want you to do, whether it's stuff like, hey, try to get 8,000 steps a day on vacation,
Yeah, yeah.
at 10,000 steps a day. I like 10's a nice round number, but go for a couple walks every day. Make sure you're a little bit active. If you feel motivated, like halfway through the week, go into the hotel gym and hit like a couple arm exercises for 20 minutes and get out of there. That's the kind of the line I definitely skew adults towards at this point. Because like
Mhm.
if you get 40 plus weeks a year in that are pretty good, like look, unless somebody's traveling like 4 months a year, then it's different. But if you're getting 40 plus weeks a year of really good consistent strength training, I don't necessarily see a reason why you need 50 or 52,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
From an injury prevention standpoint, or in terms of not getting hurt in the gym or not becoming stale or plateauing in the gym, I think it's very beneficial. Now, flip side of that is when you come back, you've got to realize like every week you take off, it might be 1 to 2 before you're back where you were. That's usually the ratio I have in my head. Granted, that ratio is different for everybody, and I also think it's different for different lifts. Like I know, like a squat, for example, something that like technique wise is always giving me trouble. Like if I get weight gets heavy or if I get tired on it, that's like of all the lifts, that's the lift that for me technique wise is not the best. If I don't squat for a while, or if I take time off and come back to squatting, it absolutely wrecks me.
Mhm.
It absolutely wrecks me. And different people are or have differences in that regard.
Mhm.
I mentioned I wanted to tell two stories in relation to that. The second one was during COVID, and we were shut down for I think about 10 weeks. And kids came back, and a lot of kids were like, "Oh my god, I haven't lifted. I'm going to be so weak, etc." And pretty much everybody was back to where they were within, by the end of that summer, within 4 weeks or so. I know I just said like the week off is 1 to 2 weeks. I do think there's a tipping point where like 10 weeks off is not 20 weeks to get back, right? It's still
Mhm.
probably like 5, 6, somewhere in there.
Yeah, yeah.
That number flips after a certain point. But people were kind of back to where they were within the first 1 to 2 months. And then a lot of them became stronger than ever in that third month after
Yeah.
10 weeks off. And
And
so,
I just feel like they just didn't get beaten down, right? They
yeah,
were just home and resting and they were probably doing some stuff or just doing some activity, but like uh it's way worse to like play baseball and just to like have the old style coach that just kicks the ever loving shit out of you if you like don't do your suicide squeeze, or if you like have the basketball coach that if you miss a layup you like do like suicides, right? Like that's way worse than like taking a week off.
yeah, yeah, I agree. And look, unless you're a week out of preseason where it's a health risk to not run sprints when you're on vacation, like do what you enjoy when you're on vacation. That's vacation.
Mhm.
Like, look, and like this is all assuming vacations are somewhere in the 3 to let's say 10-day neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't mean like people who take a month should do something like, all right, yeah, if you take a month off, it's going to be hard to get
Mhm.
back to doing stuff. But on the like maximal strength side, like that sticks around so much longer than people realize. This idea that like, oh, you need to lift 4 days a week, 52 weeks a year, it's like just not reality. It's more, I think people who promote that are promoting that more from the side of their business than they are the side of your health.
Mhm. Yeah, it's also like way easier to like reach where you've been before than to like get stronger from there, right? Like if you take a couple weeks off, you could probably get back to your 405 deadlift pretty quickly, but it's harder to get to. It'll be hard to get from 405 to 455, right? Just because you have, in my experience, like it's easier to just get where you've been than to to exceed that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think the big picture is like, I think if you're listening to this and you're in our field, like, I think you're doing your clients a disservice by not just kind of convincing them to enjoy vacation.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah,
Like, you're
yeah.
doing them a long-term disservice if you're like, you need to get your lifts in, et cetera. Now, if you have a client personality type that you know that they really want something, give them a couple things, make it simple, make it fun, have them like hungry and eager to get back to your gym.
Yeah. I had a kid this summer who in August he took like a couple of vacations right in a row. I was like, look, like we lifted since May. Like, you're strong enough, and I don't really care if you lift at all, but like you're about to go play receiver in college football. Like you need to go run. Like you need to get as many ground contacts as you can. So like I told him he had to run in that instance, but that was like, do you want to stay healthy or not for camp? Because you're about to run your balls off. So you and that was like an instance where like, or you got to train, but it's like a much different emphasis and like time commitment than what we were doing at the time.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like you gotta, like sprinting is like that absolute speed side of the continuum is going to be the quality that is in theory going to disappear the fastest. I think we see that in sports too. I'm saying in theory, but I think it's also reality. Sometimes when you say in theory, it diminishes what you're saying, or it makes it sound not practical. But if a kid hasn't sprinted in a while, you're going to see his sprint times go down. You're going to see the potential increase in injury risk when they do return to it. So look, if you have a season coming up, or you're, let's say, sometimes like in high school, for example, sometimes coaches will give kids like a long weekend, right? But if you're a kid who like you didn't sprint in the 2 days leading up to that, and you're like you need to do some kind of speed work in there to not put yourself at risk for injury when you come back from like 5, 6, 7 days off from not sprinting. So I think like 2 days a week, like most of, and this is getting into a different discussion, but I try to sprint the high school kids we have basically every week that they're in, pretty much year round, with majority of weeks being 2 to 4 days, usually 2 or 3 is the sweet spot, outside of like, the first couple months of the off season. So if we have a 6-month off season, 4 of the months they're going to be sprinting 2 or 3 days a week, with the last month before the season they're sprinting every time they come in.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that your like nervous system is a little more sensitive to that kind of stuff, right? So like in that instance, you will lose it. Like we used to time the flying tens all the time at Annex, and if somebody took a break or went away, their time's fucking tanked, like almost like 100% of the time. But they still were strong, right? So I mean, we're talking at both sides. I just talked out both sides of my mouth on that one, but I mean, you got to enjoy yourself, right? Like this is a very most small part of your life, and like the potential time with your family and like the experiences you have will probably supersede anything that you do in sports, right? So it's like,
well, and my takeaway from it too is, if you're on vacation and you don't have a season coming up a week later, like enjoy it. If you do, then you need to at least do some kind of sprinting and jumping and stuff like that. But everyone knows where they are in relation to their season. Oh, I'm 6 months out. Oh, I'm 1 week out. And so unless you're I would say the cutoff's probably 4. If you're sub 4 weeks out from the season, you should probably still do something when you're traveling. If you're more than that, enjoy it.
I had a kid this summer who is a really good, really high level wrestler, and he'll be like he's really smart, so he'll go to like an Ivy League school to wrestle, and the Fargo National Championships for freestyle art was in the summer, and I was expecting him to do pretty well. Like he was training really hard. He was wrestling a lot, and like I think it's at like the end of July, the middle of July, his family takes a 2-week vacation to Europe, and this kid's dad is like a wrestler, right? And I was like, oh, like that's kind of odd timing. Like, are you going to be able to do anything? He goes, I don't think so. This kid just like comes back. He ended up doing pretty shitty. He went 0-2 in the tournament. I was expecting him to All-American, like at least. But it was just like, well, what were you thinking? Like you could like potentially get an offer based on this tournament, right? Like that's how important it is. And he ended up not doing that well because of a mistimed vacation. So my advice for families out there is to get your stuff in early, and then or like right before where you put in the work. But like there's like every once in a while, like here and there it's probably not the best for performance.
Yeah, no, that's it. I think that's a kind of a good, like anytime you have stories like that without mentioning names, they're good to use towards other future clients. Like you're going to get something positive out of that.
Yeah.
Professional, because you can then relay that message to the next person who something like that happened or something like that might happen to, right? I want to talk, let's talk like nutrition when traveling, right? Nutrition when traveling. So if you are, hold on, I'm getting a hamstring cramp here.
Oh my God.
This feels horrible. You take over, go ahead.
So it's funny. I recently discovered the John's in trouble over here. So this is a good time to talk about salt, and you obviously haven't discovered Element, John, because you wouldn't be having a cramp this bad if you took your Element every day like I do. So something that I did this time when I was traveling, I went to multiple airports, was I got as many Core Power protein shakes as possible. I probably had on Thursday, on the travel day, I had probably three 42-gram Core Powers, because I knew that there wasn't really much to eat, right? I did have Shake Shack, which was delicious. You doing okay, John?
I'm getting crushed by this. This is
Oh my
extremely
God.
painful.
What happened?
I don't know. I've been sore from lifting a couple days ago, and then I like adjusted in my seat, and I'm getting a horrible like hamstring adductor cramp on my left side.
Oh my God.
Keep talking. I'm listening.
Do you think that I won't ask you any questions, but he probably hasn't been doing his activation work for his hamstrings and adductors, and now he's getting the brunt of it right now.
Well, no, I took a week and a half off from lifting when I traveled, and I lifted a bunch the other day, and I was like, all right, I'll just get right back into it. And I am hurting. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, how much of a lesson is that? And also, I don't think I've ever listened to a podcast where one of the hosts has gotten a cramp this bad where he couldn't talk.
That is like a top 5 cramp, lower body cramp I've ever had in my life.
Oh my God.
That took the breath out of me. I still feel it a little bit, but it's come back.
That's pretty fudged up, huh?
that felt horrible.
When you're dealing with the Mesh Boys, expect the unexpected. A cramp could come in at any time.
Oh man, I felt it a little bit early. Like the same area. I got like a little bit of a cramp earlier today. I was like, oh, that didn't feel great. I'm just really sore. And that was like a 5 times as bad version. It's going away now though.
God.
Oh.
Yeah, so I just try to eat as much protein as possible. And on this trip in particular, I just didn't really dive too much into the junk food because you could do some damage. I know you're a fan of Aunt Annie's, like that when you walk past there, it's like a magnet for your nose.
I haven't had it. Oh, it really is. I haven't had Auntie Anne, or what is it, Auntie Anne's, right? Aunt Annie.
Yeah.
Auntie Anne. But I haven't had that in a while. But that is delicious stuff.
Yeah, that's good stuff, isn't it? It's filled with butter and like powdered sugar and cinnamon sugar. Like, oh my God.
I never know. Because I'm someone who what I like on menus is usually pretty limited. That's a menu that I could eat just about anything on. Yeah,
I mean, it's insane. And you're doing some serious damage there.
I like your protein strategy for travel. I think that's a really good one for people. Something I try to do when I travel that it's not that it's just a different version of trying to make sure I drink a ton of water early in the day, regardless. So like I think hotels are probably the hardest place to get consistent water because you're like,
yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Do I really want the tap water? If I do, am I drinking out of the small cup? So like I brought my Yeti with me and it's just like, all right, I'm going to fill this up multiple times early in the day. brought my element packs that you mentioned. I do. Oh, you got to do some kind of electrolyte in the morning. It makes you feel a lot better throughout the day. It keeps energy really good. But yeah, maybe I'll double dose the elements because
so you have to. You're not getting enough.
The nutrition strategy I want to mention with the water is the one that maybe isn't that easy, but is very simple. The second one that I actually adopted from Precision Nutrition when I did some nutrition stuff with them earlier this calendar year for a few months. I did like one-on-one coaching with them, which I thought was awesome. I highly recommend.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's highly recommended. I went with my friend Tim Jeremini, who's one of their like PN level 2 coaches. And one of the things that was very impactful for me as part of that was trying to make sure you're having a vegetable at every meal. Because even if I was getting a quote normal serving size of vegetables, I would just kind of backload them and be like, all right, I'll just crush them down at dinner. But if you're traveling, that can be really hard because you're going to get like one to two serving sizes with each meal, depending on what you order. Whereas at home, it's easy to be like, all right, I'll have three vegetables here, or whatever, or 3 serving sizes. And so just trying to make sure I was getting something green at every meal on vacation. I thought it was really impactful in terms of just how I felt, how my digestive system was working, how I was metabolizing maybe not a food that wasn't as high quality as maybe we would prefer. But I've traveled with Athletic Greens, so that was in the morning, every morning. And then lunch and dinner, always having at least a salad or some kind of serving of vegetable with each meal. That's something that I would recommend. So if you combine our strategies, you're you're onto something.
And just like don't come back like 5 to 10 pounds heavier than when you left, right?
Yeah.
I think if you get the protein and drink your water and eat your fruits and vegetables, you can have dessert every night. And then, like if you walk, right, if you get those steps in, you'll probably come back and be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, like if you listened 20 minutes ago, you probably think that, oh, we're saying like, who cares? Just take a week totally off. Like, you never want to take a week totally off from health, right? We're just talking like like a week off from
you still have to be in your body when you get back.
Yeah, exactly. So like a week off from lifting weights is different than a week off from health. And so you don't have to be your healthiest, but just simple strategies. So like the ones we outlined, just combine 2 of us were, like you mentioned, trying to get as much protein in as you can. I mentioned like water and steps and trying to have something green at every meal. I think if you do those 4 things, day in and day out on vacation, maybe you miss a day, who cares? But if you get it right 80-90% of the time, like you're gonna come back in relatively similar shape to how you left.
Definitely. So Johnny, football is back. It is back. We have football until February now. How you feeling about the Skins right now? Oh, actually, the Commanders. Sorry,
so let me tell a quick story first. But last year, CSP Fantasy Football League, you're actually looking at the champion.
Wow.
So I'm both.
I didn't know that.
I'm both the commissioner and the defending champion. My draft strategy for years has been I pull up 2 windows when I draft. One is the draft. One is the Washington football schedule, and I only draft players that don't play against them. And so I just draft next best guy up who doesn't play against them, and who also fits positionally. And I did definitely skew my Commanders up high on the list. So I only draft from a pool of 18 teams. I don't draft anyone on the schedule. And I won the league last year doing that. It's actually the first time I've won the league with that strategy, and I've been using this strategy for probably 4 or 5 plus years. I don't think it's 10 years, but it's a handful or so.
You shouldn't have said that. You should have said this is the first time I've ever done it and I won.
No. Well, it's the first time I won doing that. I'm rolling the strategy back in this year, so we'll see how it goes. I'm in 2 leagues. One is with some college friends. One is the CSP Massachusetts League, the one I'm defending champion. Ran the anti-Washington football strategy. I actually wound up with 6. I have 6 Commanders out of 15 players in the CSP Mass League. And so
Wow.
really strange strategy, pick a below average team and load up on their players. But
You have Terry. You have Scary Terry.
oh yeah, anyone who's good on them, I have.
You have Antonio Gibson.
Yep, J.D. McKissick as a backup. Dotson as a backup. Their defense.
Did you have the guy who gets shot?
No, I didn't draft him. I feel like that's too risky.
Brian Robinson.
He might not play. I'm gonna assume he doesn't play. But how am I feeling about them? Look, I go into every year when there's a 16 game schedule. I go into every year assuming 6-10, right? And then
wow.
Every year, pretty much my whole life, ever since probably 2001 or 2002. I remember going into the 2000 season, and I actually have and I know this because I have the yearbook in my apartment here. I brought it up as part of like my sports memorabilia collection when I moved up here. But I have the 2000 Redskins yearbook in here. They went 10-6 before. In the offseason, they signed Bruce Smith and Deion Sanders. And the cover of their yearbook is Deion, Bruce Smith, and Darryl Green. So 3 Hall of Famers. And it's talking about how like could a dynasty be on the rise in Washington, right? They go 8-8.
Deion Sanders had been playing professional football probably for like 12, 14 years at that point.
He was about a dozen years in at that point.
And Bruce Smith was the same thing.
Bruce Smith was like 15 plus years in, yeah.
How could they have a dynasty with 2 guys who were clearly at the end of their career?
Yeah, they were. So that was the last time I went into a season expecting big things. I remember thinking they're gonna be a Super Bowl team this year.
Wow.
And they went 8-8, and ever since then, I go into every year thinking 6-10. If they fall below 6-10, I think, wow, it's a bad year. If they hit 6-10, I say, okay, as expected. If they get above 6-10, I am locked and loaded, and I'm in the whole time. Like they go 7-9 or 8-8, I am like, hey, they're competitive. They're right there.
Yeah.
Which is too bad, but that's just the mindset of a fan of a bad team. And so, look, if they win, I'd be thrilled if they won 10 games this year. I think it's probably more like 7-10. But I just want to see competitive football, which is such a lame answer. But I literally just want to have something to watch where I know they have a chance to win the game. Like
it's bad when it's bad when your team your team has no chance because like there's so much parity in the NFL, right? Like in the end, there's really not that much of a difference between team to team, right? Like the records can be clearly different, but the slogan of any given Sunday, like that really does exist. Like any team could beat any team.
Yeah.
I mean, the 0-14, or I think the 0-11 New York Jets went to LA and beat the Rams 2 years ago. And they ended up being 2-14, and they were horrible. And I was the one game I was like, oh, and that was one of the games I was like, they have no chance, and they beat them. So, I mean, to wish for just that is tough.
I am picking Washington to go 7-10 and finish 3rd in the division again. What are you picking the Jets to go?
Oh, man. I took a couple of big hits as a Jets fan this week. I listened, and I know I'm a demented person, but I listen to almost every single Robert Saleh press conference, and he said that Zach Wilson might play this week. I was like, all right, that's a good sign. We could have a chance. I don't expect to beat the Ravens. They're a great team, but if Zach Wilson plays, we have a chance. He says the next day that he's going to be out until week 4. Oh. So I'm thinking that we could start the season 0-4 because we play the AFC North, and just starting a season like that, it's no way to live your life. I know that the Jets are clearly better. They have a much better roster than last year. I just don't see them going on the road and beating 2 AFC North teams. So that's going to be tough with Joe Flacco as your quarterback. I think that they'll probably be like 6-11 at best because I think that they're going to probably start the season 0-4. So they'll go 6-7 in their last 13 games, but you can't start the season 0-4 and expect to do anything.
Yeah, that's this is the life of being a fan of bad teams, but you gotta stick with them.
Oh my God! I mean,
people who
if you change your team, you are a fraud.
and if you don't pay attention, look, I'll be honest. If I were in market, not in network. If I were in market, I'd watch every Washington game. But if it's week 12 and they're 4-7, and I have to drive to a bar and sit there for 3 hours just to watch it, I'm not doing that.
No,
I'm not doing that. There was a time when I do that, but I'm not doing that anymore. It's just like a big waste of money and time every Sunday.
And you pay for the MLB network. You're not made out of money.
I pay for the MLB. I don't pay for the NFL one. The NFL one's too expensive for what it is. About half the Washington games I wound up getting on TV anyway. I'm okay with that. I'll watch some Red Zone.
Red Zone
the other weeks.
Yeah,
but
Red Zone's a must.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Football is always interesting. I'm not nearly as big a football fan as you are. Like I'll go weeks where I don't even watch a full football game. But I'll pay attention to scores. I'm much more of a score observer than I am a full game watcher.
I didn't know that are those official titles?
Those are official titles. Yeah, there are different ranks in fandom, and so like the consistent watcher of every game from the 1:00 game through the Sunday night game. That's like an elite obsessed fan. Then there's the guy who watches their team full game every week, plus one more, then just their team, then the score observer. I fall between. I'm like the guy who watches their team some weeks and the score observer in others.
Yeah, I do have to say I will not miss, unless something happens, I will not miss a Jets snap this year. So put me on that. I'm an every snapper.
You're an every snapper. Okay, yeah, we should actually have ratings for these. If I were in market, I wouldn't quite be an every snapper, but if I were in market, I would definitely watch every game.
I remember one time I taped the games now, which is great. I mean, there's nothing better than being able to tape your game and fast forward through the commercials.
It's the best.
I remember one time something happened where it didn't record, and I turned it on like in the middle of the second quarter, and the Jets were just getting their asses kicked. It was one of the sadder, like non-serious things that's ever happened to me.
That's
like obviously I've been more upset like when something actually bad has happened, but that really took the cake.
You know what's a really bad feeling is when you record something and you watch like 3/4 of it and then somehow you accidentally find out the score. It's just like I would have rather found out the score at the beginning and not have wasted all that time. Right? Either I'm gonna watch the whole thing without knowing the score, or I'm not gonna watch it without knowing the score. But
because you can't put Twitter on until you're caught up, right?
No, and that is the main reason why I don't record as many games as I used to. I used to record every Yankee game, right? But on purpose, I'd always delete the recording after because I'd pick it up between 7:30 and 8 p.m. and fast forward commercials. And right around the 6th or 7th inning, I'd be all caught up, which is perfect. That's when the game slows down. But I used to do that pretty much every night. I don't anymore. And the reason is I like being able to like follow along storylines on Twitter, check stats, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
So, all right. Hey, we really,
we beat this up, John.
We beat this one up. We put soap in the pillowcase and really smacked our topic around.
Hey, but you know what? We were away we didn't do an episode for a little over a week. It didn't affect us.
No.
It didn't affect us one bit.
No, like if you're
other than the cramp.
I'll tell you what, that has to be the most painful thing I've ever experienced while listening to or hosting a podcast. I wasn't sure I'd make it back.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if I had to carry this thing? That's not how this vehicle works.
No.
Hey, each other.
Hey, we'll be back in a few days with a guest. We got some interesting guests in mind that will come out this fall. But you'll hear from us soon. And this is episode 9. And Our goal is 30 by the end of the calendar year. I think we're still sticking to that.
No, I have no doubt.
No doubt. All right. Hey, listeners, thanks for tuning in. We will talk soon.